You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Harry, good morning, and good morning to everyone. And that was the lilting tones, the haunting tones, the beautiful tones, and even the wake up tones of Tiffany Renée Jackson, right?
Yes.
And then she has these letters behind her name, PH period D. We're going to talk about what that means also. And also body, mind, spirit, exercise. So Tiffany's been graceful enough and willing enough to kind of endure my abuse here on the air previously, but we still have some new things to talk about. And that's to have her here. She's going to talk about some new things. She's involved with some health workshops. She's involved with the production of a one-woman show. She recently was at Hill House High School, not tutoring, but also sharing, and we're going to talk about that this past weekend and what she was up to there. Tote Rosemary Hall, she's had a chance to kind of share her gift, her vocal gifts and nurturing gifts and teaching gifts there. She recently also received her doctorate degree from University of Connecticut at her young age of blah 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 blah. I won't say what that is, but she's had masters, she's secured masters, but also there was a hiatus and then went for the PhD. And I really want to kind of focus on that, about life is about lifelong learning and her journey and her inspirational journey. And she also, if you want to see her sometimes on Sundays from time to time here in New Haven, she's able to kind of share and minister her musical ministry there as well. And we're going to identify the particular location. But I'll give you a hint. Harlan is the gentleman, the first name that kind of makes this happen. So Tiffany, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Just before we came on air, we were talking about the body, mind, spirit, and exercising the whole totality. But on a secular and visual level, you were somewhere at Hill House High School this past weekend.
Yes, I was. And before I tell you about that, thank you so much, Tom, for having me here. I really appreciate your support.
You'll get the bill, don't worry.
Thank you. God bless you. Yeah, so I was at Hill House this past weekend, sort of participating in a natural bodybuilding event. The INBF, the International Natural Bodybuilding Federation. And my trainer, Robert Fulton, he produces and he hosts bodybuilders from all over the world twice a year. And this past weekend was the amateur division. Okay. And I was participating in women's bodybuilding.
And what category? How does that work?
Well, they have for women, they have the open, all ages, and they have the masters. Masters over 40, masters over 50, so on and so forth.
So you were in the Tiny Tots.
I was in the Tiny Tots, the teen division.
The teen division, I see.
And so I, what they call, crossed over from the open to masters over 40 division. And so we had 6 bodybuilders, 5. I think it was 5. And in the past, we've had more women participating in bodybuilding. It seems now more women are interested in doing bikini and sort of like fit modeling with the heels and all that, and that's all beautiful. But we need more women to be interested in natural bodybuilding. No shoes, flat-footed.
Well, no. Why aren't the other women able to exercise their prevalences?
Well, I think, to be a bodybuilder, I think, and we talked about this a little bit off air, there are some preconceived notions that to be a bodybuilder or to be a natural bodybuilder means that you have to have quote unquote muscles like a man, which I don't use that terminology, but I hear it a lot. Yes. But actually bodybuilding, in my opinion, is really about body, mind, soul building. And so to be a bodybuilder, you have to be more disciplined than, let's say, a bikini model. Or sort of a fit model.
Well, in terms of the regimen and the exercises?
Yeah, because you have to be, the exercises are more intense and the diet is more intense because you have to become more sort of what they call shredded so that you can see more of, the real physiology of the body as you are sort of becoming a smaller version of yourself. So basically it's like starve the fat, feed the muscle, feed the muscle, starve the fat. So you're not necessarily trying to lose weight. You're trying to beef up your body mass index so that you have more muscle.
So talk more about that in terms of the body mass index and why have more muscle is better than having not a lot of muscle.
Right. So when we are, say for instance, when we go to the doctors, they weigh us.
That's right.
So essentially we get one number. Yes. But what's more important is your body mass index, your BMI.
Good.
And to determine BMI, you might have to go to a doctor where
Indeed.
you're able to. They have this method called the Caliber-Lang method, and my trainer uses that method where they do the sort of the skin pinching.
Cut it out.
They
Okay.
take your measurements
Mhm.
and your metrics and things like that, and then they come up with a percentage. So I think anything above 25-26% BMI is considered to be sort of obese or overweight.
And detrimental here to your
Right.
longevity.
Morbid obesity when you start reaching the 30%.
See? Yes,
Meaning
yes,
your body
yes.
is 30% fat.
Let's just spend a few more minutes on that, because it's just, every time I chat with you, you kind of illuminate some things that I've sometimes, unconscious, conscious thoughts. But we talk about health in general, and we see the obesity raging. I mean, I've talked to Howard Hill on this as a morbid thought, and just even our caskets have to now be larger than ever before. I mean, just on a very morbid level, but
Jeez.
health and your wealth. So you're not going to what's your name of your trainer again?
Robert Fulton.
You wouldn't have to go to Robert to compete, but you might want to go to Robert rather than going to your in addition to going to your medical doctor.
Right. It's preventative medicine as far
Mhm.
as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
But there is a paradigm. It usually starts with getting healthy first.
Okay.
Before you can get fit, you have to become healthy.
Ah.
So that means making sure your BMI is low and in the right range for your age, your height, and all that. Making sure all your numbers are right in terms of like your sugars and your cholesterols. Once you become healthy, then you can become fit.
All right. Well, let's talk about this paradigm then, because I mean, again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Tiffany Jackson is with us. But correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you giving some workshops that help people to progress on this strategy of becoming fit?
Yes. So I have a new office at St. Paul St. James. I don't know if I told you, but the church is renting me a space at a reasonable price. And I converted one of the rooms there at the church into my own personal office. And I immediately started thinking about what kinds of programs that I want to sort of organize. And the first thing I said is health and fitness forums, and just invite women to come sit around the table and just talk about weight management. And I wanted to sort of create an environment where women will be comfortable, because some women aren't comfortable walking into gyms.
Indeed.
They can be intimidating and strange spaces. And I say that even as someone who is well experienced, it's still uncomfortable. So I wanted to create a space where we could sit around and talk about weight management, and to talk about why perhaps they've had problems in that area. And what I've discovered in my own journey is a lot of it is emotional and psychological.
So emotional eating and
it's rarely about the food.
Okay.
It's generally about what drives us to want to feed and overfeed. So my first session was about almost 2 weeks ago. I believe on the 2nd, and we talked about weight management. We talked about micronutrients and macronutrients. We talked about energy metabolism, and I want to organize these classes to take place every 2 weeks.
So when's the next one?
The 15th.
The 15th of June.
The 15th of
and
June.
if folks would like to register,
then we go to www.necessariediva.com. Necessariediva.net. They can also go to my Facebook page, Necessary Diva Productions LLC, and I'm always posting.
Tremendous. I mean, I'm obviously conversation is helpful. Do you provide any guidance or handouts or looking at any films? How do you kind of convey the message?
Well, right now we're just talking. I want to see where people are, and then as we go, I'm going to start to offer even more services to people. But initially, I just want women talking about their problems with either food or their connections to food. I just want to get them talking because it's taboo. And I think sometimes, especially as Black women, and I don't have anything against people celebrating their bigness, but I don't want people celebrating not being healthy. You can be, because in the Black community, when you say, oh, she's healthy, we mean that she's not skinny, which I think sometimes is the wrong language to use. You can be big and beautiful and celebrate your bigness, but being healthy, you cannot correlate with obesity, because obesity is a disease. And
yes.
I think it's difficult sometimes to bring the topic up because a lot of women are shamed for being, you know, big and obese, and they've been shamed by family members and classmates calling them fat, or just what we see out on TV and in the magazines. So we all have these hangups. But I want to be clear that being obese is a disease. And I myself, I may not look obese, but in my mind,
okay,
I'm recovering.
We want to talk about that for a second.
Yes.
But share, for someone that might be listening and say, well, you know, what gives Tiffany not necessarily the right, this is so-called a free country in some respects, but where's her expertise? So you mentioned micronutrients and macronutrients. So how did you get this experience or this knowledge? Or?
Well, I have a certification, a training certification, but I also have a certification in sports nutrition. I'm a sports nutrition specialist. So I've done a lot of reading and studying on the subject of nutrition. So a macronutrient, or macros, this is a fancy term for carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And we need macronutrients in large amounts. A micronutrient, minerals, vitamins, and we need the minerals and vitamins in smaller amounts. So macro, micro.
See, and so come on down. When again?
On the 15th, between 11 and 1 p.m., 57 Olive Street, St. Paul, St. James.
I didn't intend. We were just and thanks for sharing that. Before we went on air, I was mentioning some of the things I wanted to talk about, and I didn't think about the body image issue. But you've been so transparent and kind and open to share. Have you posted pictures? Because when you were 12, 13, 14, people called you
chunky, you know.
So if someone saw a picture of
Diesel.
you, if people saw a picture of you, and those were the more complimentary things that people said to your face.
Right.
So you were rather robust when you were younger.
I was.
And now, and so something has caused you to feel that wasn't not necessarily a healthy state.
Right.
But it took you a while though.
It took me a while. I was never morbid. I never had problems with morbid obesity because I grew up in a family where my mom played softball, my brother bodybuilded, and my brother was a softball player. And so I grew up watching sports on TV. So I was always aware. But I think as a young woman, I was insecure about my body because it didn't look like what the average, quote unquote, American's body is supposed to look like when they look good or beautiful. And so as I got older, I think I started to emotionally, because of those kinds of because of that stigma. And I think it's unfortunate because I think women are beautiful in all sizes. And there are women who may be classified as obese, who may be much healthier than a woman who is too skinny or too thin or not eating enough.
Good point.
So it's not always about your size.
Okay. Really,
it's not. It's just about being aware.
Yes.
And being able to talk about it and not to ignore the issues.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and that's Tiffany in the background. And Tiffany, even talk a little bit about, if you would, your operatic and being involved with opera companies, because even there's a stereotype, correct me if I'm wrong, or motif about female opera singers being rather large. So it seems to me you had to combat that sociological stereotype.
Right. Yeah, which is when the fat lady sings. So I coined a term. I even bought the domain "when the fit lady sings."
See?
Hashtag. I have been hashtagging that for years. Yeah, you know, when I started bodybuilding, I decided that I was going to integrate building my body with my voice. And that's how I started to shift my brand a bit. As the opera singing bodybuilder. And I was the only person in the world who was bodybuilding and singing simultaneously. And I performed on America's Got Talent back in 2011 as the opera singing bodybuilder. And that was when I started to shift my thinking, and many of my friends, because this is my 10th year anniversary in fitness. So many of my friends, my opera friends, the last 10 years have been watching me morph into this fitness, this singing fitness diva.
Yeah.
And so many of them now are training or consulting with me.
Oh, isn't that something? See?
It's beautiful,
See?
but it was by example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I learned when I started to bodybuild, I can tell someone that I'm an opera singer, and they'll go, okay, let me hear.
Mm-hmm.
But if I tell them I am a bodybuilder, they just look and go, well, of course you are. Right? So the proof is in the pudding when it comes to fitness.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell someone that you are a fit body, and they will make that determination on their own. But when it comes to being a singer, that's something I have to prove to people by doing it.
Well, Harry, let's prove it to folks for like 30 seconds or so, and let's turn it up a little bit so they can hear you exclusively without our bantering, and so we can enjoy the vibrational stuff.
Okay.
I have to interrupt Harry because I know he's vibing out. Harry, you're still at work. Still at work. We're gonna resume. And I can see you really getting into that area, and I really appreciate your sharing. Now that it sounded like a door slamming in the back, because that was actually a live performance. A live performance. So,
yes.
And was it at the church?
It was at St. Paul St. James.
And speaking of St. Paul St. James, if people want to hear you there sometimes, how is that possible?
Well, they just need to come down on Sundays.
Come down on Sundays
at 10:30 a.m. and I'm there occasionally. I used to sing there every weekend, and we're probably one of the only Episcopal churches in the area offering jazz Eucharist.
Oh,
and it's all
so
jazz.
That's once a month.
It's every Sunday.
Every Sunday. Oh, every Sunday. Okay.
Every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. And sometimes I'm there, but every Sunday the band is there.
So there's okay.
Yes, it's
now,
beautiful.
Are you comfortable in chatting about what jazz Eucharist means? I used to have some knowledge, and I'm sure in terms of my resume I should know this answer, but for those of us that even the word Eucharist is a kind of sometimes
it is
an amorphous term, or
well, essentially it's just the order of service.
Yes.
And all of the responses, all of the responsorial things are conducted by using the jazz idioms, black idioms.
Okay.
So all of the responses, the band is playing and playing jazz. I'm using my voice the way I use it, a little bit more relaxed, as you can hear in this particular recording. I use more vibrato in this style. I try to use less volume because I'm singing in microphone. Usually with opera, you're singing acoustically. So all of the hymns, well, the hymns are more straightforward, but the praise and worship songs, we sing amen right after they break the bread, So this is the service musically is being conducted use of the jazz idiom, black idioms.
But thanks for sharing that. But Eucharist, what does that mean?
It's a Latin term.
A Latin term.
Yes,
that's
I
not
know
Ebonics.
for sure.
It's not
it's not Ebonics.
It's not Ebonics. Okay.
Right, and I think it's based in Catholic liturgy.
I see.
Yes.
Well, what is it? What are we doing? What are we doing though?
We're praising.
Okay.
We are reading of the Word of God.
Okay.
We are following an order of service that is based in Catholic liturgy.
Although this is an Episcopal church.
Yes.
But it's derivative
of Catholic.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, let's move. Let's move. No offense to my Catholic friends. No offense to my Episcopalian friends, and no offense to my congregational friends. But Well, let's just actually, I've said this before, but I want to say it again as a prelude to your transparency.
Yeah.
Do you, because we talked about the integration, the integral nature of body, mind, spirit. Can you identify a moment or time or episode where you've been converted to one belief system? I mean, do you consider yourself to be a Christian?
Yes.
So do you consider that definition to be episode driven, accumulative, experience driven, Damascus Road driven,
Yes.
Culturally driven, or is it a continuation, or was there one moment when you were not that you can identify?
When I was younger, I was all about holiness, fire baptized, Pentecostal, very well devoted, young in my faith. And as a youngin' in my faith, I was more emotional. Now, as a full-grown adult, for me, it's more about spirituality than it is about the ritual.
Oh.
For me, very much so, because everything I do, whether it's teaching, singing, and sharing, or giving back to the community, it comes from a space that is innate.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from a space that has been driven by my own personal experiences of growing up in an underserved community and seeing where the needs are. So for me, it is more experience driven, and seeing that it's about doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's about living the life of Christ, and how Christ was all about action, doing the work and being driven toward purpose.
So purpose and passion.
Yes.
So that leads us into something's happening in is it October when your one woman escapade is going to your public exposure to your sharing of your gifts and talents.
Yes.
This is not you will not be. Well, anyway, tell us about the name of the event is.
Yes. So I'm writing a one-woman show.
One-woman show.
Gift, Passion, Purpose
Gift,
Project.
Passion, okay. Gift, Passion, Purpose Project.
Yeah, the journey of a woman in the arts from the hood to the Ivy League.
Mm.
Yes.
And now the WNHH. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay.
And St. Paul, St. James again. It's been a wonderful, supportive community. Is hosting one of my first big public performances on October the 6th on a Sunday at 5 p.m.
Sunday at 5.
Yes.
And what's your guess? It'll be an hour and a half?
I would say about an hour and a half.
And if someone would say from an ego standpoint, well, why does Tiffany think that her story is so important for us to kind of pay to come? What do you say to that?
I would say that my story resonates with a lot of people, and it resonates across cultural lines, race, gender, religion.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think to share my story is also to preserve, in a way, a legacy, a written legacy. Her story. We know his story.
That's right.
Right. And I also, I was very hesitant about sharing it because I like doing. I like being in the community and doing and sharing in a way that is only through this sort of, for me, singing is an indirect way of sharing your story. Whereas when you are doing something as comprehensive as this, where I'm going to be storytelling and sharing very specific events in my life, it's not a sort of through composed story and narrative. It's moments, important moments of my life, pivotal moments that are told through my gift, my passion, and my purpose.
And speaking of, so in a way, it seems to me, in spite of the various categories and venues that you also taught at, was it one of the high schools, one of the middle schools
at ESUMS.
At ESUMS.
Yeah.
I forgot. So I want to jump. You had this artistic layers, these artistic episodes, these artistic commitments, and then you have the academic. Share with people again. So you graduated from.
Okay, so I have
career. No.
I graduated from the Cooperative High School when it was on Dixwell and Elizabeth, and then I did my undergrad at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
I studied with the first African American tenor to sing at the Metropolitan Opera, George Shirley. And then I moved back to New Haven and I studied opera at Yale University for 3 years.
And earned your master's?
I earned my master's and artist diploma.
And artist diploma.
I finished that in 1997. Then I moved to Houston, sang at the Houston Grand Opera for 3 years, had this hiatus, essentially between 1997 and 2010.
And then
Yes.
what kicked in 2010?
I started bodybuilding and realizing like I got to go back to school and get my PhD.
Cut
This
it out.
bodybuilding is fun. So I went back to Michigan essentially.
Uh-huh.
Got a call from America's Got Talent. I deferred from Michigan to do this show. Had $1 million dangling in front of my face. I was like, I'll be right back, y'all. And I was not able to reinstate at Michigan, and then I reapplied to grad school and was accepted into professional studies degree at Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
And this was in 2013.
Okay.
And then
Yes.
I reapplied because I'm going to get this PhD by golly. And then I started my PhD work, UConn, in 2014.
And received the degree.
And received my DMA, Doctorate of Musical Art, and a minor in musicology last August.
And part of earning that degree, and thanks for sharing that, because that trajectory and the hiatus and just the perseverance, and again, all that kind of connects to your purpose and your passion and even your product. But you have a priceless product. Let the record show. But
Yes. Yes.
but to earn your what's the doctorate of music?
A Doctorate of Musical Arts.
Doctorate of Musical Arts. To earn that doctorate degree, you had to perform, but also what was some of your cognitive? What did you write about? What were some of your research?
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, while I was at UConn, I spent a lot of time in my research classes writing about topics that I knew my professors were not experts in. So for instance, I wrote about Harry T. Burleigh. Harry T. Burleigh, African-American composer, the first composer to take the Negro spiritual and to put it in a classical setting, which was innovative. And essentially, he made the spiritual into a concert song, into art music. He took those songs from the field and put them on the stage of Carnegie Hall. So I wrote about Harry T. Burleigh, and my professors were, not so sure about who he was. And then I wrote about the African-American soprano pre-Leontine Price. We all know about Leontine, and we all know about Marian Anderson, but we don't know about Gloria Davy. And Matilda Dobbs. Yeah, we don't know about these singers. So I wrote about these women. And there was also another singer who has escaped my mind right now. She'll come back to me. Elizabeth Taylor Perkinson.
Elizabeth Taylor Perkinson.
Yes, the first African-American concert singer. And I believe she was... I think she was represented by Barnum.
P.T. Barnum.
Yeah, P.T. Barnum at the time. And I was just so mesmerized by these women because we don't know about them.
Yes.
When we think about opera, we instantly fast forward to maybe the 1950s and 60s. But there were many women who were not allowed to sing opera because the opera companies were, they were segregated.
This is too much. Okay, so you got to come back a fourth or fifth time, by the way. But still, I've asked this question before. But still, so how did there aren't that many black female opera singers?
There are lots.
Well, there are a lot, but that are well known.
There aren't many who are well known, but there are many of us in the trenches.
Many of us in the trenches, but
yes.
you're well known. But when you say there are many in the trenches, that may be true, but comparative to hip hop singers and gospel singers,
yeah, forget about it.
There aren't. There's
no.
That's so there are many that you know. But so for you to be attracted to this art form that our society, the black society particularly, is not that familiar with, doesn't know, and perhaps doesn't even appreciate.
Right.
I still, do you recall what was that trigger point, the stimulation? And because I hear you also saying that you're continuing to nurture and to water that initial instinct.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I sort of consider myself now to be just a singer, not just, but a singer.
Yes, but when you started, you were that.
I was opera down. I was geeked out.
And so you were a black geek in vocal form.
Yes.
Okay.
How that
you're a
happened?
black musical nerd kind of thing.
Yeah, how that happened to me, I really don't know because I grew up in the black church tradition singing gospel.
Okay.
But I started taking voice lessons at neighborhood music school when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
And I had a teacher there named Tay Cope. I'll never forget her. Beautiful white woman, short, tiny little something. And she would sit on her piano and bounce around and sing these exercises, and I imitated her. I literally would walk from Church Street South to neighborhood music school to sing Italian art songs.
And is neighborhood music school in the same location now as it was when you were in the Audubon? So That's a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a walk. And so you're 11 years old?
I was about 11 or 12.
12 years
Probably
old.
like 2 or 3 miles is really Church Street South is essentially it's gone now. They tore the buildings down, but essentially it's only a couple of miles away.
So you walk through downtown.
Essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how it happened. I started learning these Italian songs, Caro mio ben, and
say a few more of those words.
Amarili mia bella.
A few more. Right? few more the ebonics.
Ben crudele.
Few more ebonics.
Cessate mi piagarmi.
Okay, one more. I can see. We're getting.
Nina.
Okay, one more. Go ahead. Pizza. Is pizza in there? Is there a pizza opera?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was eating pizza. I don't eat pizza now, but I was eating pizza back then.
Okay.
So that's how I got the bug. But then I was instinctively the type of person who liked doing things that were different. I liked learning. And my mother also taught me that education is learning things you really don't know. It's about indulging in other cultures, which is why she sent me to Catholic school. That's how I learned about things like the Eucharist and liturgy and the Catholic liturgy and the order of service and the Mass and all that, because I went to Catholic school. So from a very young age, I was already immersed in other cultures.
Okay.
And it was a part of my education. So to sing Italian songs was really at that time like, oh, we sing Latin songs, at St. Peter's.
But you had to learn the words. You had to.
I was a good imitator. I mimicked her. She put it on tape for me, on tape, not on CD, on tape, and I imitated her.
All right. So for parents out there, but 11 years old, 12 years old, how did you know where the neighborhood music school was?
Because at St. Peter's, one of my teachers, and I remember her name. Her name is Marie Demi. I don't even know if she's still with us. She said, Tiffany, have you ever heard of neighborhood music school? I was like, not in my neighborhood. It's called neighborhood. How come I don't know about it?
Yes, right.
Didn't even know where the school was located. And then my mother did some research and we found out that there was this little small, settlement school. There used to be a settlement school right essentially in my neighborhood, tucked back in this little small community on Audubon Street. And my mother went and she spoke to some people there, and that's how I found out about the school. And I lived a few miles away from it. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later. This is why I'm also starting a nonprofit, because I find that there are little small pockets of folks in our communities who are unaware of the New Haven Foundation and ECA and Neighborhood Music School. They don't even know these things exist. And
let's go to your nonprofit, because time is winding down, believe it or not.
Yes. So Give Passion Purpose Project is the one-woman show, but I also have a nonprofit that I'm developing as we speak. As a matter of fact, there's a company called Pro Bono Partners who is helping me to establish it. And I decided that I don't have to be debt-free or rich to help the community. I can give back now. So I launched a campaign only on Facebook. A friend of mine helped me to create a series of videos that I launched to talk about my story, loosely, my gift, my passion, and my purpose, and to talk about how I think it's important for me not only to put out my own message and my branding and think about how I want to live a better life, but to think about when I was younger, that without some of the folks in the community, I would not have been able to go to a neighborhood music school. And I also thought about the unique position I'm in, Tom. Very few people can say that they understand what it means to be a part of the community and what it means to be outside of that community and still move and shake. So I understand both sides of the track, right? I can go to and speak to the CEO of the University of Connecticut and be comfortable as a Black woman, but I also can go to Newhallville and knock on the door and go, what's up?
And you can also ask the Yale School of Music to hold a benefit for your in conjunction with your foundation for scholarships.
How many people have that experience? Very few. My mom taught me that. My mother, I cried years ago to her when I was a master's student at Yale, and I said, Mom, how come we just could not? I wish I just had the money, that we had the resources, so I don't have to feel like I always got to do the two-step to get a little money. I just want to sometimes just feel like I can walk into an organization and just be who I am and not feel like I have to be this superwoman to get the attention and support from communities and from other types of organizations. And you know what my mother said? She said, you have the talent and they have the resources. And you need both. They don't have your talent and you don't have their resources. You need them, they need you.
And in terms of your philanthropy, and I really appreciate the wisdom of your mother, in terms of your philanthropy, you raised money for, was it a piano or something you was given out already?
Yes, so my campaign on Facebook raised $3,700. And I said, oh, I can start my philanthropy right now with this money. So I'm teaching already. I'm already giving voice lessons to a young artist. And I also purchased a keyboard for a young keyboard player who's going off to college. And you know how I got this idea? I performed a very small iteration of my one-woman show for festivals called Beechwood in Westport. And I met a young man there who was a phenomenal young jazz pianist. He heard my presentation and he said, I would like to use the money I earned from my performance and give it to you. So he donated $100 and said, could you buy a keyboard for a young keyboard artist in your community? And I said, I'd love to. And I added $150 to it and had a $250 budget. Found a young person and I ordered the keyboard for him and had it delivered to their home. Boy. I haven't even met him. We've been talking. But
So we all don't have to be Robert Smith and do the Morehouse thing. We can do. You're kind of really exemplifying that we can pay forward, even if we're creative and kind of dwell upon our gifts. In October, what's happening?
So in October, two things are happening. I'm going to be, God willing, in my second bodybuilding show of the season at Hill House. And I'm also going to be performing my one-woman show at St. Paul St. James, October the 6th at 5 p.m. But I am as well performing the show, first theatrical performance at Choate Rosemary Hall, January 17th, 2020 for MLK Day.
Oh, isn't that something already on the calendar?
It's already on the calendar. I'm so excited.
And you taught there a little bit this last semester or last two semesters?
Yeah, this was my first year at Choate Rosemary Hall as an adjunct voice instructor. And when I was there, I coached their musicals, I coached the a cappella singers, and I also worked with their chorus. It was one of the most gratifying years of my life, because when I went there, I thought I was going to be interacting with kids who were, just of privilege and didn't have any core. And I just had this thought in my head. But I met those kids and I said, these kids have heart and soul at this school. And it just shocked me. And I was so emotional. They had 4 performances of Rent, the musical by Jonathan Larson. And the very last performance, I bawled. And we were all crying because I was so proud of the humanity present in those kids' lives. And I think it's because of just how their work schedule at the school is pretty intense. And I think there is a part of that helps them to see that if I don't work hard, I can't succeed. And I was able to help them to see that it's important to do that also when it comes to creative art as well. Yes.
So, but do I have to pay my $50,000, $60,000 to take the voice lessons from you there, or can I? Is there another option?
No, you can just pass that over to me after the interview.
Okay, all right. And if I want to take more the private voice lessons?
Yes, if you want to take private voice lessons, I am also teaching at my office, 57 Olive Street at St. Paul St. James. You can email me at necessarydiva@gmail.com. You can also go to necessarydiva.net and reach out to me. I generally like to teach students after they've reached puberty and after young boys have sort of gone through their voice change. So I'd say between the ages of about 13 and 15 is the best time to begin voice lessons, I believe.
Well, I'm 17 now, so will you accept a little
You're
older?
You're late by about 2 years. You're behind.
But you'll make an exception for me, perhaps?
Yes.
I'd appreciate that.
I'm waiting for you to come take voice lessons.
We're going to take the voice lessons is going to happen. We're going to probably even videotape some of it and then show it during the next time you come on air.
That would be fantastic.
Do I start with the scales? How do I start?
You can do solfege, but usually what I do,
what do you do?
is I start with the foundation.
Meaning?
Breath support breathing.
So let's have a 30-second example.
So Generator, phonator, resonator, articulators. Generator, your breathing muscles, your intercostal muscles, your muscles that line your rib cage.
My bare belly.
And your abs.
Okay.
So you'll be
my
strong.
Bare belly.
You'll be strong when you sing, right? Your phonator, your larynx, the Adam's apple, the voice box, right? It's where your breath is conducted, right? Your resonator, the primary resonator, is the paranasal sinuses, not your nose. If there are singers out there, you don't sing in your nose, you sing in the space behind your nose. Your paranasal sinuses.
My third eye.
Your third eye. You have a sinus here, and there are two here, and there's one back called the sphenoid sinus. And then your articulators, your teeth, your tongue, your palate, your lips. We need to understand singers.
All of that.
We need to feel and to understand their
It's
words.
just not yelling and gossiping. It's just not yelling.
It's not. We need to understand the words.
All right. So we're gonna. This is going to happen. I know your schedule's busy, but this is going to happen. And we talked about the price is right, and there's kind of a sliding scale. We've also talked about, even if just don't even think of a voice lesson as performing at some concert hall, but just, as you say, being in tune with your body.
Yes.
And presenting yourself and selling and interacting with folks. And
Yes.
it just helps with your own being.
Yes. Well, I started writing a book, and I got to get back to it. It's called Messy Business.
Messy Business.
Yeah, helping young adolescent and pre-adolescent singers to find their voice, literally and figuratively. I've learned that when you teach the voice, you're not just teaching the vocal folds themselves. You're actually teaching the person, the identity, vocal identity. A person, I find that you'll find a young singer who would be able to play the piano, play their guitar, to model, do all these things. But as soon as you ask them to sing a song, all of a sudden, they're bashful, they're shy,
Yes.
they will
Yes.
begin to cry. They're like, no. And I'm like, what is that? And now I understand it. Your voice is your identity. It's one of the chakras. And the way you speak and the way you sing, it identifies who you are. So when you hear a voice, you can hear, are they happy? Are they sad? Are they giddy? Are they ecstatic? You can hear personality in the voice. So when you're teaching voice to a young student, you're essentially teaching their identity, their thoughts and processes of who they are as people. And so that's why I'm very good at teaching young people, because I know
But you're going to make an exception for
I'm going to make an exception for some of the older
Okay.
people, because some of the older people are singing in community choirs.
Yes.
And many of them are singing solos in church, or many of them have always wanted to sing and now they're retired, and so they want to sing and they want to find their voice. And so I'm also very much involved in those communities.
Tremendous. So for folks to find you, in terms of the upcoming October events, your body, mind, spirit, the vocal, the bodybuilding, the voice lessons, perhaps, your health workshops, what's the best way for them to reach you as we wind down?
necessarydiva.net, or they can email me at necessarydiva@gmail.com.
Great. Tiffany, thank you so much. And again, when you tune in perhaps not next Monday, but soon, Tiffany will return and we'll talk about the success of my voice lesson. Let's close out, Harry, with hearing from Tiffany Renée Jackson.
Thank you, Tom. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Such a